So, one more example of implementation and embodiment of myth-making scenario is hyper-realistic installation by Uffe Isolotto, spread over the entire Danish pavilion at the Venice Art Biennale 2022. The haunting transhuman installation, which is titled We Walked the Earth. The pavilion has been transformed into a dystopian world of the future or maybe the past, where images of Danish farm-like mix with bizarre sci-fi elements, some alien tools, very unfamiliar objects, some plants, some blue fluids, make it feel like it's a kind of some parallel reality, which is populated by three hyper-realistic sculptures of a family of centaurs. In one room, the male centaur can be found hanging from the ceiling. In a room on the right, the female centaur is lying on the floor, giving birth to a baby centaur that seems to be of some different hybrid than his parents. Their faces, bodies, and hands are larger than an average human, and their skin is covered in unusual markings. The appearance is a testimony of some dramatic process they had to endure in order to adapt to the new conditions of our changing world. The title of the exhibition, We Walked the Earth, suggests that the setting is not a mythical past, but an imaginary post-human future. In a statement, Isolotto evokes the challenging realities of our present moment, whether ecological or political or existential. He wrote, "The present time we live in is becoming increasingly complex and unpredictable as we face a lot of challenging realities, whether ecological, political, or existential. There is much hope and despair in the air, and I want to make that a physical reality with this installation." He adds, "We Walked the Earth" also draws on experience from my personal life that, in a metaphorical sense, resonate with more universal feelings and thoughts about life and death that I sense exist in the world today. Perhaps the centaurs are the descendants of humans who have taken biotechnological effort to survive or to adapt in a challenging and changing world. So, let's summarize the tips of the myth-making scenario. Myth-making strategy is a kind of narration presented in symbols which the viewer, by the way, doesn't have to decipher or to understand, because the viewers are expected to accept the artist's game, even without understanding. The viewers enter the artist's world, and this experience can be very comfortable because the world can be very cozy or beautiful place to escape, or this world can be scary and creepy experience. Some artists create more or less seductive images that resonate with reality. Some create psychedelic reality full of completely incomprehensible symbols. And instead of contemplating, the viewers are involved in some magical practice. They are like they face the artifacts that are not art objects anymore. They feel themselves like in a mystery. What you see is transforming you, even if it remains incomprehensible. But anyway, the viewers get transformed. I hope I've managed to illustrate what a scenario of a trendy artistic strategy is. When you have some preset, but pick up the components of your strategy on your own. There are 26 more presets I've discovered and highlighted in contemporary art. Each of these scenarios summarizes some kind of a trend in artistic practice strategizing. It might be reinterpreting of existing art when an artist engages in dialogue with tradition or with artists of previous generation. It might take a form of homage or appropriation reception of art history. It might be working with identity. It might be creating your own myths and cosmogonies, working with corporate reality and fragility, institutional critique with the dense political and social content, or artistic activism, where you might explore heated issues of our time, among them surveillance, militarism, corporate domination, protest culture, or rise of alternative economies. It might be working with the transformation properties of material. So, all of these scenarios are complementary to one another and perfectly match. It means if we use the tool I propose for analyzing different artists' practice, we might simultaneously pinpoint several scenarios in artists' practice. The combination of scenarios only enriches an artwork and contributes to the development of a visual language which will distinguish an artist from her or his peers. What do you need the tool for? Let's summarize. On one hand, for including markers of contemporary relevance in your work, because we talked about trendy artistic strategies. On the other hand, it's a tool for analyzing other artists' practices. For example, what way does a certain artist explore a similar subject, or what artistic strategies are typical of the works of a certain artist? You might analyze the work that you are interested in and adapt and adopt the strategies which the artist influences the viewer with. I don't mean to steal visual solutions, no. I mean discover those markers of contemporary relevance and ways of influencing the viewer, ways of evoking emotions in them. After you've learned to analyze others' works, it becomes much easier to articulate your own message and create your work because you are provided with some references now. And this is where it might seem that strategizing is limiting. And this question might arise whether strategizing is going to pull me down like an anchor. If I start using methods and algorithms in a purely creative area, will it restrict my creativity? The answer is, of course, no. Strategizing opens the boundaries. There is a countless number of ways to implement these scenarios. For example, there are 7 music notes, but the number of pieces of music are countless. Strategies do not in any way limit your freedom. Your artistic research, message of your work, discourse, concept, materials, forms which you are working with, and the statement you want to make, all those components of your strategy remain a reserved area which no one but you interacts with. You are free to do whatever you want, whatever interests you, the way you like. Another question which often comes up is whether strategies require a certain technique. The answer is again no. When you have a message, you can work in different media. Strategies help you to pack your message, your statement, but it's up to you which media and technique to choose. When you strategize your practice, everything you do gets glued together into a coherent body of works, so you control the process.